Welcome everybody, my name is Lida Liberopoulou and in this video I'm going to give you my first impressions on Legends of the Round Table, a strategy RPG based on 13th century Arthurian legends. I'm all about games that stay true to the original material, so let's check out what is currently available on this game. I should mention here that I became aware of Legends of the Round Table after being contacted by Artifice Studio, the developers of the game, who were nice enough to offer me an early view of their announcement trailer. I also went through the game's promo page and blog where the developers discuss in more detail their inspiration and design ideas. I put the links in the description. But first, let's start with the trailer. We begin by entering an illuminated manuscript that is held by what looks like the ghost of Eleanor of Aquitaine. We end up in front of Arthur, standing with his knights at the famous round table, and we get the first glance of this nice medieval illuminated manuscript style mixed with 3D animation, which I have to say I really like. Also, the map in the center of the table shows not only England and Wales, but also Southeast Ireland and northwest France. Interesting. Then we see a band of knights on horseback traveling through a landscape full of megalithic monuments and stones carved with the Irish Ogham alphabet. All very nicely done in the medieval illuminated manuscript style. It looks like there's gonna be encounters with magical creatures and some nicely animated fights on horseback with lances. Since this is based on Arthurian legends, we are going to get romance options and other types of challenges, and we get to see our first view of the interface during what looks like a non-battle challenge. Again, nice boss battle animations, this time on foot with the medieval illuminated manuscript aesthetic and the setting of having the whole thing taking place within a book. This is just the first teaser trailer, so there isn't that much there to get a good understanding of the gameplay and mechanics. However, the game website and blog posts offer additional information that can give us some idea of what the developers are trying to do. So, based on what's available, you don't play that much as Arthur, or rather, you are Arthur the strategist/manager. The game is more focused on the knights. You can have as many as 12 knights at the round table, and they are the ones that go on quests, either solo or in groups. They're supposed to evolve through the game and have different personalities, friendships, and rivalries. The actual fighting in this game will be turn-based, mounted lance charges, and fighting on foot. These fights look nice, but there is also mention of chance encounters and non-battle challenges. These will probably be handled by the card system, I guess. This is one of the points that's not clear. But for me, the most interesting part is the mention that every decision you take, like granting mercy to a defeated opponent, condemning a criminal to death, or even indulging in romance, will affect your honor as well as the future of your realm, and that every encounter in the game is intended and impactful. This becomes even more interesting if you combine it with a blog post that mentions two very well-known strategic RPGs, Banner Saga and The Darkest Dungeon, as the main influences behind the game. Darkest Dungeon is focused on setting up a team of heroes with different strengths and weaknesses and personality quirks that can help or impede them in their task. Also, it has the permadeath mechanic where a hero character that dies in battle cannot be restored. Banner Saga is famous for its story and the player decisions having life or death outcomes as they progress through the game. In fact, out of the two games, the developers specifically say that what Banner Saga is to Viking legends, we hope Legends of the Round Table will be to Arthurian legends. I haven't played Banner Saga or The Darkest Dungeon, but I do like games where the player choices affect the story and where you have bands of heroes with different motives and allegiances. I recently played The Wasteland 3, which has similarities with both these games. There are even places where a party member might leave your group if your goals start conflicting with their alliances. I wonder if, let's say, you start moving away from the core values of chivalry, is this something that can happen with your knights? But of course, as a history buff, I'm all about the developer's commitment to the source material. In fact, in the press kit, they mention that the game invites players to embody what being a knight in the 13th century was all about, and the adventures in Legends of the Round Table are directly inspired by genuine fables and texts from the 13th century. And there are plenty of points on the website and in the trailer that show that this is the case. For example, Eleanor of Aquitaine, who appears at the beginning of the trailer, is credited in the blog as the developer's muse and as the narrator of the game's story. And I think the game is correct in recognizing her importance in the expansion of the Arthurian mythos. She was one of the most powerful and influential figures of the Middle Ages, and her patronage of courtly love and chivalric literature played a significant role in the spread and popularity of Arthurian tales. However, I couldn't verify the blog's claim that she directly commissioned the translation of Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britanniae into French. The game's emphasis on 13th century chivalric culture points to a focus on the French Arthurian tradition, which brought a lot of new elements into the story. It was French authors who first introduced some of the most famous characters in the Arthurian mythos, such as Lancelot and Tristan. This probably explains the fact that the game centers mainly on the Knights of the Round Table instead of Arthur. In the French tradition, Arthur is a background character and the spotlight is on the knights and their adventures. Also, they mention that the personalities and even the quests that the knights will experience will be directly linked to the actual stories in literature. You can even see this in the promo material, since one of these quests appears to be based directly on the wedding of Sir Gawain and Dame Nargnel. And there is of course the use of the medieval illuminated manuscript style combined with 3D animations. The game's website even mentions that the 2D backgrounds are hand-painted with the same techniques and dyes used during that period. The same goes for the music that you can hear in the trailer, which is played on period instruments and follows the rhythm and style of the troubadour songs. So, from the limited information available, it seems that the developers have put considerable love and effort in ensuring that the game remains faithful to the original Arthurian characters and stories. However, it makes me curious to see how all this will play out, since this focus on the source material can add some big challenges to its design. Remember Banner Saga, the game that Legends of the Round Table aspires to be for Arthurian legends? Although it is indeed based on Viking legends, in reality this is more of a homage to Norse mythology than a direct adaptation. That allows Banner Saga to explore the basic themes and aesthetics of Norse culture and mythology, while having the freedom to take its story wherever it wants and offer a lot of player choice. I could be wrong, but I don't think that that's the case for Legends of the Round Table. And I wonder, how can the game balance a story based on literature with established characters and narratives, and at the same time offer the player choices that can alter this story? For example, what if the player takes a quest that's based on the famous Lancelot, the Knight of the Cart tale? Can the player refuse to take the ride on the cart or take a different course when it comes to the other challenges in the story? Based on the information on the gameplay and mechanics, this could be a choice available to the player. But altering the direction of a well-known Arthurian tale like this could alter other narratives within the game. These established stories also contain a lot of allegory and symbolism, which will also have to change if the player chooses a different path. Personally, I find the prospect of these stories having completely different outcomes very interesting, but at the same time, I think that it's going to be very difficult to write these different versions in a way that has the same emotional impact and keeps them true to the characters' established traits and chivalric ideals. And there is also the question of how these period-accurate elements are going to work in such a game. At a first glance, things such as the story based on chivalric values, following closely the structure and themes of Arthurian legends, the combination of 3D models and animations with the medieval illuminated manuscript style and the hand-drawn backgrounds, and the use of authentic instruments and musical themes, combined with the poetic troubadour sung storytelling for the narration of the game story, sounds like incredibly strong points for a game like this. And they can be. But, like having decision options in an established storyline, I believe that they can also add some major challenges. The best example of this is the sung narration. The developers have dedicated an entire article to explaining their design process for it, which clearly involved a lot of effort. They also provided a brief sample of this narration.
What a piercing cry, oh, an odd and a terrifying sight. It is Morgan the enchantress who emerges from dark night. Who dares to set one foot here? No, begone or feel my wrath. I will turn you to stone vile creatures, dirty rogues who cross my path. She burns with rage and calls a man. She emits a chilling cry. Strike forth, ye trusty guards, and save our land. These intruders all must die.
And yes, this closely resembles the troubadour sung storytelling style. And it's really interesting. But the key question here is how long can this style of narration be sustained before it starts to become a bit cumbersome? Troubadours and their songs emerged in a specific historical period when this style of storytelling made sense. However, we're now in the 21st century and this is a video game. And while there is the case for full immersion with the use of as many historically accurate elements as possible, sometimes these elements can overstay their welcome and even become a bit awkward. One possible way to mitigate this is to provide a little levity. A good example is Obsidian's Pentiment, which aims for historical accuracy and authenticity while addressing serious moral and emotional themes. Throughout the game, the writers have added jokes that fit the historical setting and work as a modern nudge and wink to the player, balancing the narrative's intensity. They even added ways to have fun with a wonderful illuminated manuscript-inspired visual design. It is a nice way to remind the audience that despite the weight of the themes and subjects, you can't take yourself too seriously. Despite a few challenging points, I think this game looks very promising so far. And again, from what I've seen, the developers seem to be very passionate and very dedicated to the historical era and source material. Also, it looks like they have put a lot of effort into this game. I'm curious to see how it will turn out and hope that we will soon get some more content like extended gameplay footage or maybe an interview. That's it. My next video will be on the historical locations in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and Ave atque Vale.